If you're like me, you crave an island experience, but it's actually more than that. It's the look, the smell, the feel, the sound of being on the water, of being on an island. And in Southern California, they actually have a resort island getaway. It's only 26 miles across the sea, if you believe the legendary song. And you know what? It's light years away from Los Angeles. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this is Catalina, like a local.
26 miles across the sea, Santa Catalina is waiting for me.
Today, it's still where the locals from Los Angeles, Long Beach, and San Diego get their nature fix. And so can you. You can get here in about 15 minutes by helicopter, but most people take the Catalina Express, only a 1-hour ride from Long Beach or Dana Point. By the way, if you want to talk like a local, they refer to the mainland as Overtown. The island itself is 22 miles long, 8 miles across at its widest point, and only a quarter of a mile at its narrowest. Now, a little history. The island was once owned by William Wrigley Jr. That's right, the chewing gum guy. But he was more than just spearmint or doublemint. He also owned the Chicago Cubs and turned Avalon into the team's capital for spring training. One of the coolest 6-room B&Bs in America, let alone Avalon, is the former Wrigley Mansion. Remember the Wrigleys? They own the Chicago Cubs. Here's the cool part. Not only do you get great views of the harbor, you get great views of the baseball field. Here's what would happen. He'd watch them do spring training here with binoculars. He had a telephone here. And if he didn't like what he saw, he'd pick up the phone. Mr. Wrigley would call the dugout and say, "Have the boys come up and see me." You know what that meant? They'd have to run all the way from there, all the way to up here. Talk about physically fit. It wasn't long before the Wrigleys turned what's now the capital city of Avalon into a small resort town. And in 1972, to protect Avalon and the rest of the island, the Wrigley family established the Santa Catalina Island Conservancy. Their goal, to preserve 42,000 acres and 48 miles of coastline, as well as the local animal and plant life. And it's worked. 88% of the island is now protected land. Oh, and speaking of animals, you don't want to miss Catalina's bison herd. Back in 1924, 14 bison were brought over to the island to shoot the silent Western film, The Vanishing American. Once production wrapped, the bison were left on the island and have lived here ever since. Now, you know what I really like about Catalina? Look around, you're not going to see many cars. Only residents can have them, and even then, it's a 14-year waiting period. So what do? You bike, you walk, or it's golf cart. But don't worry about getting around. Downtown Avalon is only 1 square mile. And while you're here, remember, you're on an island in the Pacific Ocean, so it's a great place to fish. Visitors and locals alike fish off the pier, and more every day. And you know what that means? Seafood. And here at Blue Water Avalon, they serve only sustainable local seafood. Just check the menu to see what came in just that morning. If you really want an adventure to remember, there's a zipline eco tour. It has 5 zip lines, 300 feet above the ground, and one of them is 1,100 feet long. And in between each tower, the guides will tell you about the local wildlife and the native plants. The zipline ends at the Descanso Beach Club, where you can end the day with a special cocktail called Buffalo Milk. Don't worry, it's actually a lot better than it sounds. The truth of the matter is, you really don't need any alcohol to enjoy this true eco-island getaway. Oh, and just to be clear, it's not 26 miles across the sea, it's only 22. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this has been Catalina, like a local.
26 miles across the sea.